You're good.
Right. So we'll bring the Benton Harbor DDA board meeting to order. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
I just had a thought to add board comments at the end.
Okay.
Otherwise, I motion to approve the agenda.
And I want to add two things.
Okay.
Public comments, which I forgot to put on here.
Public.
Public comments on the agenda,
Okay.
and insurance, which we will talk about.
Where do you want to put the public?
Well, let's do the public comments after the finance report.
Okay.
Which is pretty simple. So if everyone agrees to that, I need a motion.
Motion to approve revised.
Okay. So virtual, make motion, we have support. Support. Right, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, the treasurer reports, we have $1,502.91. We're starting to dip down a bit, and you'll see on the agenda, we've got some things to talk about in terms of fundraising.
Richard, it's not carrying too well.
Is that better?
Huh, maybe it's not on.
don't think it's on.
No, not on.
This,
Yeah, is that it?
it's on.
Hello? Are you there?
Yes.
Now you can hear? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So where were we? Balance, Marketing Promotions Committee report. John is not here, but Virgil, would you like to say?
I don't have anything to report on it. We haven't followed up on those scheduled meetings that we had. We only had, at the last communication meeting, we only had, Mrs. Gunn and yourself and I were there, and I haven't met since then. I have an ideal though that I'm thinking, because we're far along. We got a tentative list, and we also have a letter that we put together. Maybe we can just start this communication process by sending a letter to the business addresses that we have. Just start by that way. And I was thinking in terms of us introducing ourselves, maybe inviting the people with the letter to a gathering, where we can talk about who we are. I don't know if that would work or not.
We had that gathering, which was more of a survey and community participation thing. It'd be great to maybe offer findings from that.
And also
an event after
introduction, yeah, at the same time, yeah.
Okay. So why don't we, I forgot which week that group was meeting. It was Friday at 4, wasn't it? But what?
Yeah, I think we kind of changed it because that was the time that John wanted, but wasn't able to make it. So I think you and Gunn and I set it for Thursdays.
All right. So let's make sure that we meet, hash out all those details and take some action. You wanna, so this Thursday's tomorrow, or when? This next Thursday?
Next Thursday would probably be a better planning day for you.
All right. Let's get,
What is that for next Thursday?
Our communication committee meeting,
so that would be the 29th. And I think we did say 4 o'clock for Nick Gunn, did we not?
we were kind of doing a 5. I don't know if that 5 was something that he had to have.
All right, well, let's stick with 5 then, so we are sure to get him.
Let's also check and be sure that's not the same Thursday that the Brownfield Authority is meeting.
I'll do that now.
It, let's see, what, they meet on the 4th?
Second. Second Thursday.
Second Thursday? They moved
I
it.
switched it, yeah.
All right, so the second Thursday this month would have been the 8th.
I think
We did.
Okay. All right, so we should be okay with the 29th.
What time again?
I'm assuming that the 5 o'clock schedule that we had was something that would meet Gunn's schedule, but I guess we can follow up and check it.
And actually, this is a committee meeting, so we've been holding that at the Welcome Center,
Yes.
not a conflict with this space.
So, so that sounds like a plan then. Take a step forward once we get these details worked out. Michigan Main Street's Welcome Center, we met, Richard and I, we want to talk a little bit about, talk about a bunch of things.
Well, we're still working on, I guess, it's a little bit similar to communications, but figuring out how to welcome new businesses and such.
And I would put under that, the social district management, partnership, things are kind of on hold while we're waiting
We're
information from the state.
waiting for the response back from the state.
Right. And, the signs probably are being printed, or if they have not already been printed. That was underway. And Cornerstone, of course, is handling that piece. Hopefully, hopefully we'll get the thing up and going before Labor Day, if everything works out. For the Welcome Center, also just housekeeping stuff, our electric bill is due on September 20th, and you can see it's $97.26. So how about a motion to pay the electric bill, please?
Motion to pay the electric bill for the Welcome Center.
All right.
Second?
Right. And any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. This got left on here, but Morton House did do a 50s tour downtown. Very well attended, over 40, I think it was 46 people. And that tour started at the Welcome Center.
It was a tour of the district.
It was a tour of Main Street mostly. And then because we walked, I went along, it was all walked. So we kind of did a loop back around and talked a bit about people's memories of the Arts District area. It was again, very interesting to see how many people are actually interested in Benton Harbor's history and heritage. And altogether, something on the order of 180 people, I think, have been on tours of downtown Benton Harbor on foot, on bike, or by water this summer. And that's with not a lot of advertising or effort on our part. It's Morton House's, but even they are not really putting a lot of advertising out there to support it. So I can imagine that if we wanted to help expand things with a little more advertising, we could get those numbers up even higher, maybe doing more frequent tours. All of that, of course, helps us with getting out the word about what Benton Harbor is and allows people to see it up close, as does the social district when that gets up and going. So
The theme of that tour was the flats.
No, that was the second, that was another tour.
Oh, okay,
So
sorry.
there was a flats tour as well, and that tour led from City Center. And that was a tour on foot. That was also well attended,
The flats,
the flats tour.
where the flats used to be.
Yeah.
That's where I live.
Or
Yeah.
your area.
We were right there at Market and Marketplace,
And what were you actually touring, just where it used to be?
touring the neighborhood, talking with their historic photos. People were telling their memories of having lived there or relatives living there and what that part of the city was like back in the day.
Is
I think
Maggie,
they're-
is Maggie back from?
Yeah.
Right, she is?
Yeah.
She probably got a lot of memories about that. I kind of grew up in that area.
There were 5 churches in that area, which was a.
Yeah, it's the second, I think, not Pilgrim Rest, but, yeah,
The AME Church.
AME Church was there, yeah.
Right.
There's Fleming Barber Shop, and the Sherm's Barber Shop was down there. All kinds of bars, the Glass Bar, Sarah's, and then the market where people would just go and hustling. Your kids would go and hustle and load trucks and unload trucks and get paid by the day. That was a busy place.
So we did see the remnants of the market, which are few, but still there. And then also talked a bit about Waterworks and Waterworks Park and people's memories of using the park that was there. And then talked about urban renewal and the impact of tearing down whole neighborhoods and how long it takes to redevelop them.
They had a promotional thing for I think it was used to be called Hayward Wells apartment complex. They changed it to Harbor Flats. That was Boudreaux suggested that name because he remembered the flats, and that's right up the little hill there from where the flats used to be.
There was one attendee of that tour was in a wheelchair and was able with some difficulty to maneuver the tour, which was great.
Okay.
We need to keep cleared sidewalks in mind.
So that was also a success. So I think working with Morton House is really paying off for Benton Harbor and that by programming these things. We do have the benefit of it, and being the place where people start and stop has been to our advantage because it makes people aware of the Welcome Center, and inevitably they pick up materials and ask about the projects that the DDA is doing. So it's great exposure for all of us.
I didn't arrange these things, but just for information, I'm on the board at Morton, so participating in a new energy there. It's good.
You know, it would be wonderful if between the DDA Martin House and the arts group, that somehow a big picture drawing of the old flats area that depicts the marketplace, which was the largest fruit market in the world at one time, and some of these other things about the flats where it was, illustrated pictorially. Many people don't realize that all over the United States, there was a flats-like situation in just about every city in America, usually on the south side of some railroad tracks.
Well, you used to go to Black Bottom House.
And at those times, there were more minority businesses in existence in every one of these places than there has ever been since we changed from the segregation to not being segregated. And a lot of that is lost on current society. A lot of these young people, Black kids and so forth, have no knowledge, no idea of it. But I can remember even in my little small town in southern Illinois, there was restaurants, there were different hair salons, a drug store, And I mean, back then, drugstores, you went and ordered medicine and they pulled out a crucible with a little glass ball type thing on the end, and they made your medicine for you. But all of those things were there in the neighborhood.
So
Having that history available is big. It's a good draw and education. Morton will continue to try to do that and make it available probably online best and continue these tours.
I think it's an important time, though, to gather this information because of when you consider the ages of people who actually had experience there. A lot of them are passing, or they've forgotten so much. So I'm trying to gather oral histories and record them and possibly illustrate from pictures that people have to document what those areas were like. And then for our purposes as the DDA, your suggestion about the market in particular, I believe anyway, that it would be great for Benton Harbor if we established a historic district in that area that actually acknowledged the existence of the market, celebrated it, and used it as a tool for redevelopment.
And not only the market, but there was, in fact, it was still there when I came here in '84, the House of David Cold Storage Building that was down there that was basically sort of the center here. Also the tie-in to Ship Canal. I used to come up to Water Street. That was part of what was helping with that market situation. People were coming here from as far away as Kalamazoo and as far south as South Bend, bringing their goods to put on those ships to ship to Chicago and also go into the market or to the cold storage building down there. A lot of that history is missing. I mean, times when phone numbers were 2 digits. In my community, 1-3, that was a cab.
So, we do have some standing remnants of, Benton Harbor's canning history, and market history. One of our people here can speak to that, having a couple of buildings that are still standing and that they're keeping together. It's an important part of the history, but it's also can be and should be an important part of the future. It is the heritage of the city is part of what attracts people here. It's unique character. So, and of course, that's the purpose of Main Streets.
The location where the dialysis center is was supposed to be a park, I think. Or it was maybe.
It was designated green space as part of a court,
Mediation.
right?
Okay.
But it was
Just that
never
property,
was meant to
not
be
a
that.
specific purpose.
The buildings that were demolished were done with grant funding in order to provide an opportunity for economic redevelopment.
Right.
And so
It never should have been designated for a park. It was just a act of somebody that just didn't really give a hoot, And that has had ramifications that still impact us. The city has not been able to apply for or receive recreational parks grants from DNR for the last 12, 14 years because of that. Emergency manager, and the act that sold it and created the problem was done by a second emergency manager. Nobody here at the city voted on any of it or had anything to do with it. It was entirely done between emergency managers.
it's crazy.
One of them designating it as a park or looking for it as a park, and the other designated giving it to the.
Actually, it wasn't so, and the answer is yes, but it wasn't so much trying to make it a park as it was that they were required as a part of the arrangement with the National Park Service and the state DNR in order for the deal to go through to allow Harbor Shores to utilize the acreage that was part of Gene Clark Park. They were to provide as mediation alternate space that could be left for public purposes, which is generally a park or a park light type thing. And, as opposed to any real care in identifying an appropriate location, it just grabs spots all over the place. Because the same is true of the vacant lot that sits right on the corner there of, is it Market, right next to, where the,
Market and Eighth Street.
right, where the, Auto Electric is.
Yeah, right
Yeah,
across.
they just, you know, it
And
doesn't make any sense, right in the heart of the city, the area where you're most likely to be able to develop business and so forth. You got these plots sitting empty.
there's, City Center and Liberty Park are also examples of that. Real estate downtown, you know, for
Yeah.
business purposes. And
And like you said, the total action on the deal to do the mediation, that was one emergency manager. And the deal to sold the mitigated property to build the dialysis center on was a single act by another emergency manager.
so we should probably move on with our agenda here, but it's good to remember these things because as people are interested in redeveloping some of this property, we need to be able to tell them what's actually going on with it. Where are we here? There is a possibility of applying for a grant through T-Mobile. We talked about it at the last meeting, but we did not have a quorum, so we did nothing about it. So if someone would make a motion to allow me to apply on behalf of the DDA board, they have a grant for as much as $50,000. And proposing that we use it, it's not all 50,000, 30,000 at least, to rebuild the deck and access to the Welcome Center, as well as create a commons area there, so that people can kind of hang out on that corner around the Welcome Center. It kind of leverages the work to create the social district. At the same time, it also brings activity, a place for activity, and stimulates, hopefully, economic activity in the properties adjacent and downtown. So that's the goal of applying for this grant. And if we could have a motion to apply for the T-Mobile Communities Grant.
If you would first, is that public property or is that part of the lease property?
Part of the lease.
Is that something that would be agreeable to the lessor?
We have talked about it, yes.
Alright.
I started with that.
Mhm.
And there are a couple of anomalies we need to take care of, and this is one way to do that as well, which is access to the building for people who are unable to use stairs can be corrected with this addition to the deck, getting us closer to the sidewalk and getting a ramp that is connected to the sidewalk will allow people to make better use of the Welcome Center. And that in turn will allow us to work with the CSEP program with AARP in order to get an employee to actually help by staffing the center. One of the issues with that was that we don't have
What was the name of the program?
CSEP. So we've kind of been on hold with them for a while we try to figure out how to get a number of things done that would make the building available for a program like that. We can talk about that program later, I guess. So is there a Someone making a motion?
Motion
Where's it
for
on the
Rich
agenda?
It's
to pursue,
rural grant, right in the middle.
Okay, got
a motion for you to pursue if it hasn't
Okay.
already been motioned.
So Richard's making the motion to apply for the T-Mobile grant.
a second.
All right, Rachel is supporting.
Discussion?
Any more discussion?
Yes. What's the possibility of either increasing the grant to do this or tying it in with MEDC or one of them? I want to start trying to see if we can get some grants for solar street lighting, where we can increase the lighting in various areas in the city without increasing the electric bill. And right now, with all of the focus on alternative energy and that kind of thing, I think the opportunity is ripe for trying to do something of that nature. Now, I understand there's an organization over near Detroit that did something, I think Highland Park, that did something successfully of this nature where they put in some solar street lighting.
There's an art community there that has done that
Yes,
about 10
yes.
years ago.
Right.
Well, it's something we can look into adding. I believe the cycle gives us, their grant cycle, and then you can submit continuously. So if that's something the board wants to do, we can investigate adding it. As
We
I
would
said,
want those lights in more places than just this location, so that might be kind of a separate deal, bigger deal.
It, it will be in terms of our applying for similar resources for other areas, but this may be an opportunity for you to do that particular area that you're working in as a part of that particular effort.
We could inquire to see if lighting is covered by this grant opportunity.
I mean, it's about placemaking, so I'm fairly certain as a part of a project for placemaking that lighting, of course, would be covered. But we do need then to work out some of the details for this, and maybe that's something that the Main Streets Community Committee can do with our landlord to make sure that we're meeting whatever expectations are there. So can we do that at our next meeting of that group? And that will be September 12th. I don't think you're on a committee. Would you like to join that committee?
Let me look into it and get back to you.
All right, so it always meets the same week in the month and the same time, and it's always at the Welcome Center.
Okay.
And we do meet. Moving on. We had the collaborative event, and we have someone in the audience who can tell you a little bit about the regional chamber cleanup.
Put me on the spot, huh?
Oh, sorry, real quick, Rick, do we need to finish the passing that?
Oh, did we, I'm sorry, did I miss the vote?
We had a
Shoot,
discussion,
yeah.
We didn't finish, I guess, voting.
We were in a little discussion.
Sorry, yeah. Well,
It's been motioned and seconded, so
second.
all we gotta do is.
yeah, all in favor?
Discussion.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Please.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
So we're doing a community spotlight every month for the Benton Harbor Next Gen Young Professionals Board. And last month was, I proposed a cleanup for Benton Harbor downtown. So we had a few of our board members, Rich also joined us, thank you, Rich. And we spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours cleaning up downtown Benton Harbor, so picking up trash. And then, yeah, I mean, it was just a great collaborative effort, but we would hope to do more in the future, whether it's in Benton Harbor, whether it's downtown, in the city. We'll be doing other municipalities as well, but each month we're looking to give back to a community of Berrien, so.
We did also talk informally about the idea of the chamber of volunteers, whether it's the Next Gen group or other volunteers, individuals, to help with installing the holiday lights in November.
Yep.
And having a little bit of a social, celebration of that after an evening of an hour and a half, 2 hours of putting up lights in City Center. So we don't have a date nailed down, but hopefully we can work that out too.
I'm glad to hear you mention that, because now is the time to be planning and implementing some of that while there's no ice and snow on the ground.
Right. And we're hoping to do that in early November so that it's in place earlier to avoid some of that weather. So, is there anything more you want to add to that?
Thank you.
So I have something on here for the design committee. The other day at the Welcome Center, there was a couple of people crawling around on the ground outside the Welcome Center on the sidewalk. So I went out to check what it was, and it was Kathy Burzak from Avonmarsh and another person from MAC, which I think is a maintenance company, I'm not sure exactly, taking inventory of the plants in the sidewalk plantings. So they had the plan from the mid-2000s when that was done in their hands, and went literally from one section to another, taking attendance to see what survived, what was missing, and then I believe also in the process they were trying to determine what, based on what they saw, what might replace the things that are missing, that might grow better than what died there or somehow disappeared. So I inquired about the whole thing, and that's what they explained they were doing. And so I asked them who sent them, because obviously none of us have talked about that other than to talk about trying to keep them under control. So it turns out that Chris Cook sent them. And so I contacted him to find out what they had in mind.
He and I had been talking about doing it to try to improve the looks of plantings and so forth throughout the area down there.
Right. So there is no funding for that at the moment, no funding mechanism. And asking him a little bit more about that, he, by email, suggested that it might be part of some future effort to create a business improvement zone, which we have all talked about previously, trying to press to get the TIF in place. So I'm going to meet with him, suggest a meeting with him at our next committee meeting for Main Streets in order to talk about where we are as far as the proposal we have from McKenna to do the TIF study and the development plan, and potentially including the plantings and our other planters in the plan for the TIF money. So just wanted to make you all aware of that. And welcome some expertise and technical assistance in getting a little bit further to where we want to go. It's nice to have someone else to engage and help support the effort so we can all work together and get it done versus us trying to continue to do it piecemeal, we can get a better outcome, I believe. So we'll have more information after that meeting to share with you all about a future direction. Right below that, I've got on the agenda the downtown development plan and TIP plan. So McKenna, because the state did not include us in their current budget for the cost of hiring a consultant to do the TIP plan, we potentially could have assistance from McKenna in finding those funds elsewhere in order for us to get the TIP plan done. There's maybe a little bit of synergy between that and the zoning update. Certainly community engagement that we've already done for the master plan, our town hall meetings, and what we'll be going through with the master plan can help us make sure that the projects that are included in the TIF are projects that people are asking for, and that hopefully will have the most impact on the downtown district. So we will be talking with Paul Lippens through the Planning Commission, and I will continue to talk with him to see whether or not he has found some funding or some more concrete ideas about where funding would come from. And now we're on to you. Do you have anything you want to share with us?
I do, because I want to make and maintain a special effort to keep all of the contributors to our economic development effort coordinated in terms of what's going on. DDA, Brownfield, Arts District, Social District as it moves along and everything, and the city, because I'm doing some things that will impact the areas the same that you all are covering. So you are aware, the commission has approved a plan to sort of designate the area from 5th Street down to Paw Paw, and I guess Main back over to Territorial as Little Italy, with an agreement to allow Mr. Manina to put together signs that would be from 6th Street down to Paw Paw. It would be sort of underneath like they did for, and that'll be going there. I'm sure you're aware of that, but I want to make certain. Also, there's a request to do basically signage at the corners of 4th, 5th, and 6th, indicating Richard Hunt Way, which is within the same area as the Little Italy district. One of the other things that, and I don't want to miss one item there. On the Little Italy deal, there's a plaque already there on the
2nd Street.
and they're going to want to put another one right in that corner there of 5th Street, in a location that's out of the way, but that will also indicate that that's part of the area.
You said at 5th?
Yeah.
Like 5th and
5th and Territorial,
Griffin territory.
Yeah.
Being the Little Italy section.
all the way down.
All the way down, I
All
thought
the
you
way
said
down
back
Paw
to
Paw.
Sixth Street.
Actually, the Little Italy section would be all the way down to Paw Paw, but the signage would only be from, at that end.
So we were talking about that before the meeting started, that the way the designations are laid out, you end up with a street with 3 names for a block.
Actually, it shouldn't. That was what we meant to talk about, so we would not have that.
Okay.
Fourth, Fifth, and the corner of Sixth would have the Richard Hunt Way signs on them. And in lieu of doubling signage on it, that's why we agreed to do the plaque. So it did like you got at Second Street up there at Fifth Street. So that designates the whole area as Little Italy, but the sign Richard Hunt Way would be on this end, and then the rest of it down the Paw Paw would be. Okay.
I could suggest too that since Richard Hunt and we're trying to incorporate from Fourth Street to Water Street, that end has kind of been neglected as part of the arts district. It kind of comes to a screeching halt. That maybe designating Richard Hunt Way to Water Street as sort of the main street of the arts district would be a nice, respectful thing to do. Then you pretty much don't have three separate things going on in that length of territorial road. It would be Richard Hunt Way from Fourth Street to Water, and in the opposite direction with the plaque that goes up at Fifth Street.
Mhm.
So that could be less confusing to people trying to navigate downtown.
And that's exactly what we're talking about, what
Right.
you just described. And if you're suggesting that Arts District could also overlay in that would be probably good, because it could concentrate more combined effort on supporting the area.
Right. I think then everyone
Yeah.
gets the benefit of the designation, people who are actually there in business trying to create an arts community.
Excuse me, just one second. Yes, sir.
Muhammad Ali Way was
Okay.
Fifth going the other way, and that was approved and everything else.
Yeah.
by the
Let's
commission.
do that and then get an idea from what it's gonna cost. All right, thank you. Yeah, that could be good, and that's the reason why I want to make sure and mention these things, because some of these, occurs as a result of people approaching commission. And the next thing I know, it's ready to go through, and I'm trying to coordinate and balance all this by what I know about what's going on with other stuff. Because initially it was about to be, like you were saying, you had 2 or 3 different signs, and that didn't make any sense. Yeah.
Well, and, being sort of in the business, Virgil and I, of directing people through downtown.
Yeah.
We've had thousands of people through the Welcome Center and trying to tell them how to get along downtown in and of itself at times is confusing to people. So having these designations that don't necessarily correspond to anything that you can see. And Richard Hunt has a studio that we can see. We know there's an arts community. It makes sense. Little Italy doesn't exist anymore. There are some buildings, there's no cultural aspect to it, no activity taking place.
No residency.
And unless we do like the interpretive signage that you're talking about, it doesn't, it's kind of like the flats. You go to see the remnants or the space that used to be. So, in trying to market downtown and trying to create identities for these distinct areas, I think that's really important that we do that coordination.
I agree.
Inside or outside the DDA, all of these, there have been several over the years, honorary street renamings, which are honorary namings, just a list of what they are, where they are, maybe
That would be a
printed so
good
that it
idea
would be
too.
available.
That would be a good idea
Further,
also.
would further honor the recipient of the honorary.
In some cases, there are designations probably where there aren't signs yet, or there's signs that have fallen down and people don't know where they are. So just,
I think it's a great idea that we start putting together some kind of document that includes all of these things as it's so that we've got an official source that kind of documents them. One other thing I wanted to update you on, we just approved a lease for the property diagonally across from the city center park, corner of Main and Water, where we're gonna put this Priority Health exercise facility, backing up against the wall area of the building there and facing toward Main Street and Wall. So that someone has told me that they've done something like this down in Berrien Springs. I haven't seen it yet.
It's the closest one to here is in Darien.
Okay. And I know they got one up at Grand Rapids.
They have
Tell me
three
the
up
little
there.
space there right next to Evermont?
Will there's a wall side of that fitness station, will that be along the wall that
Yes.
exists there? Okay,
Mhm.
so it'll be visibly open.
Absolutely. That's the intent of it.
so near the mural,
Say again?
near the Ancalana mural,
No,
or on the other side,
Wall
Towards-
Street.
more on Water Street than Main Street. Because the mural faces water, but it's actually up at Main, that's where their building entrances are. But of course, that property goes all the way around down Water Street. So,
And I'm looking at the wall that faces toward Main Street.
okay, thank you,
Mhm.
great.
And we expect to start moving on that very quickly because, well, we're about 3 years past due on it from when it was initially, sort of put together as an agreement between, Priority Health with, support from all, from Whirlpool and from Corewell. And there's a requirement when they put the concrete slab in that there's like a 28-day curing period. So last year we waited until too late and the weather was changing. We want to get moving on it this year and try to see if we can go ahead and get that in.
Just a curiosity, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious if anybody's spoken with Priority to see how active those units are that are placed throughout the country.
I have, and they're indicating that they're getting a lot of use in most places. Yeah. Also, you're aware the plaza should be getting started before long down next to the Omaha Flats building in the canal. And as I mentioned, Chris and I have been talking about trying to work together to improve the appearance of the vegetation and so forth in the Arts District. And I'm going to be looking at trying to do something similar in that stretch down Riverview Drive, because that is one of the most beautiful areas in the city. And the wildness and whatnot of the growth down there is unbecoming. We're going to have to do something with that. And I want to do that soon. Also, I'm working on and going to be moving rather quickly on some of these also. Bite this elephant off all at once and do a few bites at a time. The city's parking lot down here on the corner of Court, there's a mural on the wall behind is the lot sitting there just growing grass and doing nothing. There's one diagonally across behind the old Michigan Cleaners there also that needs to be done. What I want to do, and I've asked Stab and Marsh to take a look at and put together for me a reasonable plan. We're going to resurface those, but I also want to put some minimal level of planting to make it look nice and low-level lighting. I want to make these parking spaces not look like they do look like now, make them an attractive part of downtown. And at the same time, we're gonna start charging for parking on these lots in order to start getting in a position to maintain them and make sure that they stay looking nice and whatnot. We're not gonna try to get carried away or anything, but you pay for parking everywhere, and now is an appropriate time, and especially these lots where we get over from people next to Block over here, behind Nobo, where we're looking over here. As a matter of fact, we are approached, I forget the name of the coffee company that's moving in over here, looking at moving in the facility across the street. They're wanting to lease 14 spaces that they would have for employees. And they first talked about wanting to see if they could lease spaces in the city center park, and we're not going to do that there. That stays for the support of the park activity. But the lot down on the corner, we can possibly work something out. Because the city is in the downtown area rapidly moving to a position where we're going to be pushing for parking spaces. So we're going to start trying to do something with that. I'm also going to get a couple of people sent off for training and on proper protection and use and whatnot of sprays for vegetation and whatnot. Up and down these streets, we're looking at weeds growing up between the concrete and whatnot. It destroys the concrete is what it does, and it makes the place look like heck. But I want to start doing something about that so that we don't continually have that problem. And of course, whenever you start talking about herbicides and spraying and that type of thing, you get all of these other questions and whatnot. I mean, we want to be prepared to answer them with people who've been properly trained and certified by the state to do it. And same with the chemicals and so forth. So those are the items that I just made a note to try and mention today.
So I did have a question.
And of course, keep in mind also that what we're working on, trying to get our social district up, Cornerstone still working on the alley project too. It should be coming up soon.
Did they ever share that parking study with you? Remember, we were at a meeting, it was a planning committee meeting of the planning commission, where they hired a consultant to come in and do a downtown parking study for them.
I don't think I ever did get it.
And we met with the consultants, and I asked at the time if that would be available to us, and then kind of hedged. But
Who was it that had the study?
Cornerstone,
Okay.
and Andrew Hahn was organizing it.
I'll get to it.
So that might help us a lot,
That might be helpful.
or at least be the basis of something.
Yeah. And I might mention too, I'm still putting a push on to try and get funding for some EV charging stations in downtown. I'm still focused on putting some in the downtown area as well as down on Riverview Drive, but specifically also that lot that I acquired that's next to the old fire station between there and Fifth Street, where I want to get it paved, put a bathroom there and set up some EV charging stations.
Just slightly off topic, across from that lot you just described, there's a pump and generator going on for a week, I think, there, feeding from one manhole to another. Is that an emergency of some sort?
Yes, it is.
Is that gonna be resolved at some point, I guess?
As quickly as we can get somebody in there to do it. There was some kind of backup problem in there that impacts the mason jar and some other things around there where it was starting to back up. And we're looking at the basic causes where we're gonna have the organization that we've got doing the CCTV camera studies and whatnot, and we're gonna try and address that.
So it's a sanitary sewer transfer.
Yes.
So, shall we move on? Holiday lights, we did not set, any committee meetings or who was going to be on the committee. We just lost Chris. I wonder, Virgil, are you still, and Richard, are you still up for,
I am available.
okay?
In some limited way, I don't know, we're talking about, last year, we had a different, level of involvement in the holiday lights because we hired somebody to do some stuff
Well, for the big trees,
for the big trees.
but, you heard what our balance is. So there's a lot of fundraising between now and early November to do. And then I do have under this, and since you're here, a question about the sponsorship money that should pay for the expenses. Is there any progress on the check?
We're talking about the one that came from,
From my end, that is for that project?
It was sent to us that we.
For last year.
Well, for this year as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
I got to apologize, I completely had got off my radar.
okay.
I'll get it back on and get to the bottom of it.
So we really do need that money, otherwise we are not gonna be able to do, I mean, we have lights that we own, we can put up, but as far as those trees go, there's no way that those
That's a
trees will get done.
$10,000 check.
I'll get that moving.
Thank you. And I do have to make a commitment to him. I've not heard from the company yet, but he did want to make sure that we had an engagement set up earlier this year so that they can get them up earlier and,
Youth Works?
no.
Oh, the contractor, yeah.
Can't recall the name, but we'll have more details about that for the next meeting then. So Youth Build is still waiting for their payments, and now that Youth Build is not even Youth Build, Connexus. So part of that money that's due is to also pay for the Connexus bill because of the sponsorship that Novo pledged and didn't follow through on. We're trying to catch up on a bill, the $3,750 bill from 2023-24
For youth build.
for Youth Build, right?
What-
For the
what
work
was
that
that
was
for?
done to put the lights on Main Street.
Oh,
So they do those and we pay them that amount that they agreed to. And volunteers from their programs put the lights up and then they store them year round when they're not on the poles. They store the street lighting. We are storing the theater or the park lighting in the theater. So they are moving, or they've moved our stuff, I've been told, to Connexus, where they're storing it for us there, since they've kind of shut down the
So,
program. But the people who were involved in putting the lights up previously through Youth Build are committed to doing it in for next year.
So
We'll
you,
get moving on that, because the last discussion I had with her about that, she was asking about having them, or sending the check back and having them reissue the check in the name of the DDA, but I'll follow up on that. What was I was gonna ask about? Yeah, what's the update on the theater?
Well, we're in process. I've got some notes in here. The engineers went through the building a week and a half ago, I think it was. Looking through ceilings and floors and walls to determine what the condition of the structure is. And there are a couple of places that are concerns, but for the most part, they really don't see anything dangerous. And actually, they don't see anything dangerous. And the things that they find questionable are things that can be repaired relatively inexpensively. And that the structure of the roof itself, the steel trusses are in fine shape. There's one that they want to reinforce. But other than that, they're in fine shape. And so it should be safe to get someone on top of the roof to do some repairs. In the meantime, we also, this Saturday, had, through Villa Environmental, we had one of their staff members who did an asbestos survey of the building. They took 60 samples. It's amazing to find this out, but we have 7 different kinds of plaster in that building. And each one of them has to be evaluated separately, along with glues, tiles, all kinds of things throughout the building, insulation that's still there from an old heating system. And so it'll be more than 60 samples processed, because the company that does the processing will break down these pieces, and where there are multiple layers of materials, they'll each be a separate test. So we're going to be paying for that laboratory service, just to keep that in mind. There is a discount on the staff's time, but
They took the samples, but we pay for the analysis.
right, so that's what that proposal from Villa was for. So it's, it's well within what we were thinking.
Did we not also get a little grant from the state?
So that grant actually is for another phase of planning. So we have been talking about expanding beyond the footprint, but what I was talking about just now is all specifically that building and trying to get that envelope sealed up and something concrete that we can put our hands on. That's what the initial gift to us is paying for. The additional money from the state is for looking at expanding the theater beyond the footprint and considering options for other properties.
Adjoining properties.
Adjoining properties, and I don't want to talk about any of the details of any of that
Understand.
in public.
So that you know, in my monthly meetings with MEDC, I'm stepping up emphasis on the project there as a priority for the city, that we want them to get involved more in.
So now I'm going to put on a different hat. As a library trustee, I wrote to Joey Andrews, who who got us this appropriation for the 30,000, to ask him about the best way to fund the library's needs. The library needs $210,000 worth of tuck pointing, and then about $750,000 to put in an elevator, because the one that's there from 1968 cannot be upgraded beyond the requirements of the 2026 changes in the elevator codes. So basically, we're talking about $1 million that they need. And in that conversation with Andrews, discussed the idea of packaging a number of these priorities for the city, and whether or not that would help us score higher in a grant, knowing that the RAP program in particular, scores people on impact for placemaking and obviously keeping the library standing and in use is part of the goal of the city as a whole.
It'd be a good idea, because we're also going to work on trying to put a request together for funding to build a new city hall. This building is beyond where you can just keep the repairing, just throwing good money after bad, or just extending, the existing time period. I mean, like right now, we are beginning to experience outages on the internet system because of the areas where the firewalls are. We can't cool them enough. And that's just one of a list of things that are, this building really wasn't designed for what we're doing now. It was, it's good for its time, but it's not where it should be.
We used to have the city jail in this building, didn't we?
I think at one time they did, when I first,
remember being there.
I know they did, yeah, because
The cells are down.
when I was here the first time, yeah, we sure did. Yeah, we certainly did,
And those cells, that space is still down there. It was in this building.
yeah.
So, they felt that it would make for a stronger application. Their suggestion is to possibly work with the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission as the technical assistant, and to get them to do the grant writing for us because of the complexity of a grant. So it's something that we should consider.
Absolutely.
And the library has no capacity whatsoever to write a grant like this. And right now, without a director, it's the board of trustees who's managing the library with the staff who are there. So it's something that we need to look into. And maybe that's something that you and I can talk about later.
Sure. We're recruiting for a director?
Oh, no, the grant writing, because maybe you have some other ideas, but their suggestion was Southwest Michigan Planning Commission or an economic development agency. We have issues with the theater trying to work with Cornerstone.
I understand.
Because of the deed restrictions.
Yeah.
So that might leave the county, or if the city is hiring a grant writer or has someone who has capacity, perhaps we can do it in-house. So that's where things stand. We're going to, on the 25th, to Plymouth, Michigan, to look at a theater. The committee who's involved is basically Richard, Virgil, Linda Allen, and I, who are on the theater committee for the DDA. And so we're going to talk with them about their reconstruction of their theater operations, staffing.
25th of September.
25th of August.
August.
Yeah, so it's coming right up.
Yeah.
So it's a Sunday, so we'll make it a day of it. So just want to get that out there. They're happy to host us and share their knowledge, and we could use some. opportunity to talk to someone who works in real estate development, who also has connections and managed the businesses of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomis, to look at the expansion of the theater, and to help us put our business plan together. His services are free, and he has a lot of experience, so running their enterprises. So it's kind of exciting to have that opportunity. And our next meeting, he'll be glad to attend and talk with us. So that's a very exciting development as well. Moving on to a couple things, obviously Deidre's not here to give any kind of update. Halloween is coming very quickly, and our commitments for Halloween will be pretty much the same way they've been in the years past. Closing the streets in order to have the kids have enough space for trick or treating, to move between businesses and the Welcome Center. St. Joe Today is organizing a lot of the participants, but every year we get the band, the fire department, the police department, whoever's available there, and the Coast Guard to come, as well as staffing our Welcome Center and having candy and treats to hand out to the kids. So it's always on Halloween, just so you can kind of plan for it in your minds. So that would be Thursday, it's the 31st this year. And it'll still be the same hours, 4:30 to 6. I think it was 4:30 to 6. And so we'll need to be talking with public safety about the street closings. But other than that, if any of you would like to volunteer, or if you'd like to make donations to the cause so that we have money to buy treats with, all of that as well.
Maybe we'll have our meeting with the DDA area and promote and encourage, I guess they do their own places often if they have a physical location, but participate in the holiday or the Halloween event.
Right. Well, the way it's been organized, it kind of grew out of a partnership with the library, the DDA, and St. Joe Today, who, when they initially did it, only did their members, worked with their members to promote it. So we kind of, the library and us, have expanded it to include the schools as well, and to try to get the word out to other businesses who are not members of St. Joseph Today, to make sure that we're including as many people in the downtown district as possible, so that it's a benefit to everyone.
It certainly brings in kids from everywhere.
Yes.
Sorry, if you're done with that, I just have one thing that adds on to the holiday lights topic. Finish that, but I wanted to ask about power. There's been, I think, maybe hopeful planning about adding power to City Center Park. And you mentioned MEDC and wanting to do things, placemaking, lighting, which is currently marginal in City Center Park. Maybe that would go along with the solar power project that you talked about. Power outlets in City Center Park for holiday lighting and other general use. Perhaps a combination. Currently, besides the park itself, streetlights are out from east of 5th to 6th, I guess. A block plus of dark streetlights. One of them poles missing, a couple of them heads are missing, or inoperative, I think heads missing. It's a pretty dark section, I think, County Commissioner Yarborough spoke about that about 2 years ago at a commission meeting, feeling unsafe walking home to her apartment, which is right in the center of town.
East of Fifth.
Right by Dial-A-Ride, there's a pole that got hit, I don't know, maybe a year ago, that's still leaning and lightless. And then from the parking lot at Sixth to east of Fifth is all dark on the south side of Main Street.
On Territorial.
Main Street.
Main Street. The lights are, at this point, the lights in Territorial and Water Street and Fifth seem to be fine. Don't have any out now, happily. Also, we want to make sure that the power that is in the park, that those two
Breaker box.
standards, the lighting standards that are there are also going to be live when they're done, because that's also a place we draw power to light the bushes in front.
Say again, so I make sure.
So on either side of where the monument is going,
Okay.
there are two decorative lights that kind of lit that plaza where the benches are, or benches were. One of them was not working last year, but the other one was. And if they work, we light them, and then we use that wire to be able to light the bushes and the beds below. So we know that they're putting in decorative lighting that'll be low voltage. We're not sure what shrubs or how we will configure the lights this time, holiday lights. So that'll be kind of a guess. Hopefully it'll be there in November or done in November. Or maybe we'll be lighting construction fences. But we'll do something. It's not gonna be dark.
Just one more, not on the lighting topic, is that water fountain. Has there been any progress on getting that operating? I know it'll be needing winterizing soon if it starts to get wet, but
There hasn't been. We'll take another look at that.
We've kind of left this agenda item, but I have some questions about youth build and what is our, if they're no longer existing, how we're not going to be able to use them this coming year for holiday lights.
No, we will be able to use, the people who are volunteering are still involved with Connexus. So they ended the program over on Fourth Street, but they still have programs going on at Connexus.
So we have a legitimate source that we owe the $3,000.
Well, yes, and Connexus, and when we've made those payments from year to year, we make them to Connexus.
To Connexus.
Right, because that's their financial structure, and then they're made available to be used by the program for additional things. They do enrichment stuff with it.
So we can get Berrien Foundation involved with assisting DDA with some of these activities.
Well, we have part of the money that's remain in our account is money from them, which we were awarded for last year and this year. So it will be time soon to apply for 25-26. So that money will be there for that.
I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes. Anything else that you need from me?
We're at the end of the agenda.
Did you have more
I
questions?
just have a question about the tires that are still hanging out at 200 Pawpaw. That's kind of an eyesore.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it
I
is an
had a
eyesore.
discussion about those tires yesterday. What we want to do is there's going to be, well, what was done previously happened as a result of an arrangement between the city and Eagle to clear out part of the area there where the old Edwards Park was down the bottom where the sewer had to be replaced. And they had to get those tires and things out to do that. That's where the money came from for the trucks that were there. We recognize in retrospect that the way we did that, we were looking at the opportunity to use that same process in those trucks to get rid of some of the tires, and we opened the thing up for people to bring tires and so forth. That became a problem. So what I'm wanting to do now is I don't want another truck over there sitting, not even for 5 hours. We're going to be doing one more phase of getting some tires out of there, bring a truck in, and when they do, I want them to drive the truck up here, load all them tires up and get the truck out of here, because the minute you start, we learned the hard way that you put something like that up and invite people to use it. Nobody does it when they're supposed to. It's when the dadgum truck's gone that they start for weeks afterward piling stuff up.
I didn't ever read any advertising about that, but couldn't it be placed just inside the gate at Public Works, or just outside the gate, somewhere in a more appropriate place?
The problem will still be the same. Once the truck's gone, people will keep piling them up there. So
Maybe
we just don't
inside
want
the
to.
gate. Yeah, I don't know, yeah, it was a.
So this is a copy of the lease that
Okay,
you
great.
requested.
Yes, sir.
And we really don't have anything else on our
All
agenda.
right.
The only other thing I have a question, I guess we had an email exchange on that, the closure of Jean Clark Park at a time when the water was unsafe, but the beach was not unsafe.
Because it was a question of public health, I basically deemed it a health hazard, and I don't want to leave the city exposed to any additional issues. So despite that, I would still close it for the period while we've got the E. coli warning until the health department releases it. Hopefully, just like this time, that won't last a long time. But the idea of leaving the beach open and just saying that it's not healthy to get in when we don't have anybody out there to try to police it. Yeah, to police it, that's asking for trouble, and I'm just not gonna do that. Yeah, so when we get those, I'm gonna shut it down until it's, the E. coli warning's gone.
So there was another sort of thing that kind of piled onto that, which was the National Weather Service putting out an advisory about rip currents. And I was just at Silver Beach, which was also, we had just had that issue again. And they, because they have lifeguards, they can put up red flags on their lifeguard stands. But I was wondering if that would be something that, not necessarily a flag, but that maybe there would be a plaque. New Buffalo has a board, and if there are hazardous conditions, rather they put a red piece of wood up, and says.
That's something I would like to be able
Right at
to
the
do if we had the staff to be sure that we could be sure that that would be done every time. But because we don't, I see a situation where if we go out here and we do it one time, next time there's nobody to do it, you don't, you're setting yourself up to get sued, So it's just best the warnings that are out there, people are aware of them, because I don't have the wherewithal to make sure I've got people to do that. I'm gonna stay away
When
from
you close the beach, though, I mean, you can't control how people use it if you're gonna let them go there.
it. Absolutely.
Right. So, I mean.
That's why I wanna just close it and be done with it. These E. coli things, I believe that basically is coming across the lake. There's nothing on this side of the lake big enough to create contamination of the lake. And hopefully, as usually is the case, they don't last a long time.
Well, thanks for,
Sure.
right. Can I have a motion, please, to adjourn?
I think Rich ready to make a motion, no.
I will motion to adjourn.
All right,
I'll second it.
all right. Motion made by Rich Revers and support by Virgil. All in favor, signify by aye. All right. It's 12:45. Let's turn off everything
Hang on one.
before anyone says another word.
There you go, right there. That's, I think that got it